mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage for 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo, welcome back, everyone, to another dope episode of Chill World Radio, man. Let me get this music stuff intact and make sure everything is all good in the hood, man. What's the deal, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Chill World Radio, man. It is a cold Sunday afternoon, evening. Man, it's dark out there. It's raining. Some people like it. I don't like the rain. It's all messy and dirty, just like I don't really like the snow. I feel like it's good for the first few moments, and then after that, it's just like it gets old. It's just like But I hope everyone's Sunday is going well. I hope everyone's weekend is going good, man. This is we're about to start the week. And just like any other week, man, we always have to make sure that we try to start off on the right foot. And one of the ways we make sure we start off on the right foot is that we make sure we end the weekend on the right note. Right? Because if you end the weekend on shit, that's going to just carry on into Monday, right? You're going to wake up Monday morning like, if you go to sleep Sunday evening like, right? So if you're one of those individuals who struggle with Monday mornings and don't want to go to work and just grouchy and all of those things, man, make sure that Sunday afternoon or that Sunday evening or just your Sunday in total, just make sure that day is as relaxful and as peaceful as much as possible, because everything is important. A lot of things in life revolves around momentum, right? You could have the momentum going in a negative direction. You can have the momentum going in a positive direction, and the momentum can shift anytime, but you have to be conscious of when that momentum is shifting. Right? So when it comes to the Monday mornings and you're waking up like, I hate this. Okay, let's begin the momentum, the positive momentum Sunday. Hell, let's begin it Saturday. Let's start that momentum. Start the ball rolling. So when that day does come, we're not like, because Monday's going to come. You're going to have to go back to the job. You're going to have to get back into traffic. You're going to have to get back into these things that you really don't like. Shit, I don't like traffic. Nobody likes traffic. But that's the one thing we do on Monday mornings. We sit in traffic. But the one thing you need to make sure you do when it comes to that is prepare yourself for that Monday. Because the Monday's going to come regardless. And that's something that happens with a lot of us, right? We get mad at the things that we know is already going to come. Right? It's like us getting mad at a person who is just already toxic. Like, we know that person ain't shit. So we're going to let that person ain't shitness get us mad when we already know that person ain't shit to begin with. You get what I'm saying? Like, let's be mindful of the things and the way people are, so that way we do not allow them to control us. That's the same with our schedules. Right? If we know Monday is complete ass, and we know in a lot of fields, right, Mondays are typically some of the hardest days, right? And if you know Monday is going to be a hard day, set yourself up to where when you go into that Monday, it's not going to be something that you're going to be extremely overwhelmed by, because that Sunday was something that was extremely dreadful, or that Sunday was something that was extremely bad. Right? Do what you have to do to begin that positive momentum. The Sunday night, Sunday evening, the Sunday day, whatever it is, start it early. So that way you won't be surprised, or that way, things won't catch you off guard. That way you won't wake up right? But that's the Sunday, and just overall for even me myself, right? One of the things that I've been talking and thinking a lot, primarily this week, is this whole aspect of being overwhelmed. This whole aspect of being overwhelmed and stretching yourself too thin, right? How are you yourself stretching yourself too thin, right? Is it your hand art is in many different places? Do you wear 10, 12, 20 different hats? Do you have all of these responsibilities and priorities underneath your belt and on your shoulders? Like, how are you stretching yourself thin in many different ways? Because when you're stretching yourself thin in all of these places, you're giving 10% here, you're giving 10% there, you're giving 20% here, you're giving 15% there and 5% there. And when you're giving 5% or 10% into whatever field or whatever area you're into, you're only going to get 5% in return, right? If you're investing 5%, you're only going to, get 5% in return. And there's a lot of people that say, it's like, yo, it's okay if you're able to do all of these things, but just make sure whatever area you're in or whatever field you're in, just make sure you're giving 100% at that point in time, at that moment. And that's bullshit, right? Like, it sounds good. But when you're working, a 12-hour shift on your feet, it is hard to give 100% effort towards that 12-hour shift, then go home and try to give 100% effort towards, the homework you got to do, or the children that you have, or the family that you have, right? Because no matter what, we're not robots. We're not going to be able to always function and go on 100%. And the one thing that I'm realizing now is that I'm not a robot, right? I'm not able to give 100% towards everything. And what that is doing is that is causing me to be disappointed in myself in other areas. And, that's an honest conversation you have to have with yourself. How are you causing your own personal disappointment when it comes to the things that you want to do? Is it because you're spreading yourself too thin? Is it because you're just purposely getting away from it? Like, what is it? What are you causing? What suffering or challenges are you putting in your own way? What roadblocks are you putting in your face? Right? These are questions that we always have to ask ourselves. A lot of times we just go with the flow, especially if we live a busy life. A lot of times we just go with the flow, and this whole aspect of being busy is something that we use as a means to show people that we're actually doing something productive. Right? A lot of us are just busy for the sake of being busy without actually being productive within our busyness. Because you can be very, very busy and be very, very unproductive, right? In many different avenues, in many different ways, right? You can be very unproductive in the sense of, I'm not utilizing my time differently. Effectively, not differently. I'm not utilizing my time effectively. I could be using it differently in order to get more out of it, but I'm not utilizing my time effectively. Right? Out of this long day and those quick little 35 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, an hour to where you're just not doing anything, you can use that time to, do what you need to get done. But if you're not taking care of those moments, those small little windows, are you truly being, productive? Or are you being busy towards something that you're not even fully into? Are you being busy towards something that you're not even fully dedicated towards? You're not even fully motivated towards? Right? One of the things that I'm realizing is that if we continue to have this conversation with ourselves about why we aren't motivated, we're wasting time, right? Because motivation is going to come in spurts, right? Motivation is going to come in seasons, right? You're going to be motivated. Ooh, I don't like this music background right here. I'm going to change you. But motivation. Ooh, that's ugly. There we go. But motivation is going to come in spurts, right? Motivation is going to come in the season. You're going to have those times in which you are motivated. You're going to have those times in which you aren't motivated. And the moment is what I'm starting to realize is that when I begin to lose motivation in something, that is showing me that I never really wanted to do it in the first place. Or I begin to ask myself, why am I here? And if the answers to those questions are not motivating me, where can I go to find that motivation? And that's a hard thing to find, right? Especially if it's lost. Now you start to question yourself, should I really be doing this? Should I really be here? That goes back into you spreading yourself too thin. How is the one thing, of the things that you're spreading yourself thin in, of all of the areas that you're in, that all of the things that your hands are in and all of the hats that you wear, what hat is taking away a lot of the things that what hat is taking away time away from the things that you actually truly want to do? And how are you using that hat as a scapegoat to get away from the things that you want to do? Because like I said, we use busy as a way to measure how good we're doing in life. And just because we are busy and we're working and all these other things, it makes us feel like I'm doing something productive, because you have people who are just sitting on their ass and not doing anything. But those people who may be sitting on their ass not doing anything may be at peace, they may be peaceful, they may be broke, but they ain't tripping. You may be up on your feet, moving, doing all these things, and you may be stressing over a lot of different stuff. But many of the times that, we have to figure out, what we need to juggle and where we need to go and what we need to do and all of these things. We need to start figuring out what we need to cut out, what we need to get rid of, because we cannot be in 30 different places at once. We are only giving 5% effort towards this one thing, and then we get mad at the 5% return that we get. We get mad at the 5% return on our investment. Let's not get mad at the amount of things that you're getting back when you're not being conscious of how much you're putting in. And be mindful of what energy is being taken away, or what field or what thing is being, what's that word? I don't know. I forgot the word. But what thing is being shunned and damn, I really forgot that word. You had them blank spaces. Anyway, of all of the things that you're doing, man, how are you putting energy towards all of these things? What energy is being shunned and you're not paying attention to, or anything like that, versus you're putting all of your energy towards this one little thing that doesn't matter to you in the first place, right? Figure it out. Ask yourself these questions. Take a deep dive into this stuff, because you're going to be losing out on certain things that you should do. All right. And that's where I'm at right now. Right. Figuring out what I need to cut out, where I need to go, and where I truly need to put all of my energy towards. Because you don't want to live a regretful life thinking that, I put 100% energy into this thing that isn't even meant for me. You don't want to be 40, 35, 50, or 60 years old thinking, damn, my whole life I've been putting all of my energy towards this thing that doesn't even matter, that's not yielding me any type of reward. So figure it out. Figure it out. What thing are you not paying attention to? That's that you are going to regret later on in life, right? And because of that, I guess that's like a little miniature segue into self-care piece, right? The one self-care piece that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to make sure you reward yourself in any aspect of the day, right? As much as you can throughout the day. Make sure you reward yourself, right? I was telling Didier this, that I reward myself throughout the day by watching anime, right? I'm a big anime fan. I watch animal documentaries and shows, and I watch anime. Like, that's my favorite stuff to watch. And in those small little 30 minutes of time, or an hour that I have, or whatever, I find those times to reward myself. Like, well, let's watch an episode of this, or well, let's watch an episode of that. That's my little reward. How are you rewarding yourself? A lot of the times we just go, without being mindful of how much work you're putting into this, without being mindful of the energy that you're putting towards, without being grateful of the fact that, like, hey, you actually can do this shit. Sit back and, pat yourself on the back, or I think we used to do that, like, elementary school, like, pat yourself on the back. That stuff, like, do that. I actually just patted myself on the back. But do that, right? Clap for yourself. Clap for yourself. Do something. Just reward yourself in some type of aspect. You don't have to spend money. Hell, I don't think you should spend money. But you should just take those moments to really sit there and be like, yo, you the shit. Like, you really did that. Like, you doing the damn thing, right? Take this quick second or this quick moment to reward yourself. Doesn't have to be 30 minutes, doesn't have to be 5 minutes, whatever it is, find something to reward yourself with. Clap for yourself, cheer for yourself, advocate for yourself, whatever you have to do, find it. Me, I watch anime. You may have to watch something else. The way you reward yourself may be, cutting your phone off. It could be something as simple as that. Cutting your phone off and giving yourself time to just really disappear, right? Because a lot of us may be attached to our phones. So cut your phone off for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? Put it on do not disturb. Get rid of it. Do something, right? If you're using that time to reward yourself. Because you're going to have to find peace. You're going to have to find some form or some area in which you could just be at peace, in which you could just, woosah, right? In which you could just rub your ears and woosah and just be dope. In those moments, those quick small little moments, we got to take advantage of it. It's very, 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 very important. So the self-care piece that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to reward yourself as often as you can. Not once a week, not once a month. Every day, reward yourself as often as you can, because you work your ass off. A lot of us work our ass off. A lot of us have difficult jobs. A lot of us have difficult families, difficult spouses, difficult children, difficult friends, relationships. We have a difficult life that we have to deal with, but we make it through every single day. Somehow, some way, we make it through the bullshit. Reward yourself for that, for just making it through that shit. Because you could be going through the worst thing ever. And I tell a lot of my patients this, because the story that they tell me be having me like, whoa. The shit that they be going through. I always tell them, make sure you reward yourself as much as you possibly can, as often as you possibly can. Because at the end of the day, the fact that you're still moving in today, that means you're a winner. You may not be a winner in yours eyes. You may not be a winner in your eyes, but you're a winner in someone's eyes, right? So make sure that you acknowledge the fact that you are a winner. Make sure that you acknowledge the fact that you are dope. Make sure you acknowledge the fact that, you the shit. And do that by rewarding yourself in some type of way, in some type of aspect. However, whichever way you can. Make sure you do that. All right? So moving on forward into the self-care piece, right? The one thing we want to speak about today is ego. And ego obviously gets a bad rap in many different ways, right? Many different reasons. The ego obviously gets a bad rap. You're very egotistical. You're an egomaniac. You're ego-driven, right? Your ego is too big. You have a huge ego. And a lot of us don't want to deal with people who are too egotistical. We don't want to deal with people who their ego is too big, because their ego is going to weigh us down. Their ego is going to make us feel like shit. Their ego is going to make us feel bad. That's what their ego is, right? That's what their ego is going to do. So we stay away from it, because the other person's ego is just too much to deal with. But a lot of the times, our ego is something that is needed. Our ego is something that is useful. Our ego is an asset. And a lot of the times, the ego isn't what's wrong. It's the negativity that is associated with the ego, or the negativity that we have within our mindset, or the negativity that we have gone through within our life. So when it comes to ego, right? When it comes to ego, the one thing we should do first is just come to a definition of what is ego. Let's define it, right? Ego obviously is just how you define yourself, right? How do you define yourself? How do you perceive yourself? Who are you, right? That self-image of you. Ego is your self-image. Ego is I. Ego is me. Ego is us and we. Like, that's what the ego is, right? And everybody has one. Whether it's good or bad, small or big, everybody has one. But the thing that ego is always going to be there. From the day you are born to the day, from the day you are born to the day you die. That ego is always going to be there. The thing about that ego is that ego is shaped. That ego is twisted. That ego is either damaged, or that ego is rewarded based upon the experiences that you go through in life. right? So our ego, a lot of our egos as adults are shaped by the things that we go through as a child. They're shaped by our childhood traumas, right? If we're an individual that was raised in a very abusive household, and if we're an individual who was beat a whole entire life, we're going to soon create an ego or an image that we ain't shit. We deserve the beating that we are getting. I think last week I spoke about, how our relationship with negativity, and how sometimes we believe we are only worthy of negative stuff because of the negative things that we have always been going through. See, that's the ego right there. That's the damaged ego. But that ego right there is not the dangerous thing. The dangerous thing is the negativity towards that ego. The dangerous thing is the experiences that you came into your life, because that's what shaped the ego, right? And that's how you perceive yourself. But the thing about that is the ego can change and the ego can shift throughout your life. The ego can become bigger, the ego could become smaller. But when it comes to those individuals who are extremely egotistical and I guess egomaniacs, or their ego really holds this negative perception, it's the boundary between your ego and reality. If that boundary between your ego and reality is way too thick, then what you are going to do is you're going to make everyone else feel bad. You're going to put down everyone. You're going to use your strengths, or let's say your weaknesses, to make everyone else feel bad, right? Because who you are is who I am. That's all it's about. Me. Fuck everything else that's going on in this reality. It's just about me, right? Me and my problems, me and the things that I've went through, me and everything that went on in my life, right? And it's going to get bad and it's going to get even worse because we're not putting ourselves in positions to actually loosen up those boundaries, to actually fix those boundaries, right? And that boundary right there is a tough thing. And one of the things that we need to make sure we are mindfully doing in order to loosen up those boundaries, right? We have to understand that when our ego is getting in the way of us creating friends, maintaining relationships, keeping this job, keeping this relationship, building a dope and positive rapport with my family, children, and friends, we have to make sure that our ego isn't putting anyone down. Because like I said, the ego is how you see yourself. And if you see yourself as someone who is greater than that person, and you are doing that, you are voicing that, you are putting that out there, then you're going to make that other person feel bad. That other person isn't going to want to be around you. But it is hard for us to identify when we are doing that because we are stuck in this box. We are stuck in thinking that this is just me. We are very self-centered, and anything else that is around me doesn't matter. See, one of the things that you're going to have to figure out when it comes to the ego is that you're going to have to come face to face with reality. And you understand that in many different areas in life, you ain't shit, right? In many different areas in life, like, we do not matter. And that's a very, very tough pill to swallow. That's going to come with resistance. But when that comes with resistance, that is a good thing. That is the ego, right? That is the negative side of your ego being broken down, right? That is the negative side of your ego being broken down. One of the other things we need to make sure we do, we need to make sure we spend time alone, because a lot of people who are very ego driven, a lot of people who we would say are very egotistical, they need someone around them to make themselves feel that much better. And if they don't have that person around them to make them feel that much better, their ego is not working, their ego is not functioning, their ego is not producing that negative thing that they need in order to make themselves feel better, because there's no one else around them to be put down. One of the things that we have to make sure we do if we're trying to, get away from an egotistical mindset, if we're trying to, I guess, break down our ego, we need to spend time alone. We need to spend a lot of time alone. We need to spend time alone and start to ask ourselves these questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What is defined? How am I defining myself? Am I defining myself based upon the experience that went on in my life? Or am I defining myself based upon how I see myself? And a lot of the times when it comes to the ego that we have, that is defined based upon the experiences that went on in our life. And it's important to understand that even though we have gone through those things, we are not those things. Even though we have been abused, we are not someone that deserves to be abused. Even though we have been victimized, we are not the victim, right? We have to make sure that we separate the experiences from who we are. If we do not separate the experiences from who we are, and if we just cling on those experiences, and if we just personalize and use those experiences to identify who we are, then that's when we'll begin to suffer. And that's the bulk and the foundation of that negative ego. We cling onto those experiences and use those experiences to define who we are. And because we are using those experiences to define who we are always going to suffer, because those experiences are always going to haunt us. Those experiences are always going to cause us to feel bad and feel like shit. They're going to cause us to use our ego as a defense mechanism. And one of the things that we quickly begin to do is put people down. We quickly begin to put people down and make ourselves feel a whole lot better. Because we don't feel better about ourselves. Because we are identifying ourselves with the experiences that we've gone through, without understanding those experiences were just experiences. Those experiences bring negativity into our life. So that right there doesn't mean that it's necessarily the ego that is a bad thing, but it is the negativity in how we are clinging on to the experiences that we've gone through that is a bad thing. So like I said earlier, the ego is always going to be there. The ego is that sense of self. That ego is how you perceive yourself, but that perception of yourself could be defined by you only if you allow it to be defined by you and not be defined by the things that you have gone through. We want to be mindful of the fact that we're not allowing the negativity of the things within our life to cause us to speak ill of others, to cause us to speak down the negative of others, because that is not the ego. That is the experiences, the negative experiences that are speaking. That is not you. That's a very, very important thing. So when we begin to understand that there's a difference between the ego and how we define ourselves versus what experience we are clinging on, then we're going to be able to use that ego as a positive thing, right? We're going to be able to use that ego as a positive thing, because that ego needs to be there to help you understand that you're a strong person. That ego needs to be there to help you understand how dope you are. That ego needs to be there to help you understand, like, yo, you're great. Help you build that confidence, not arrogance, but confidence. That ego needs to be there. But the thing is, that ego needs to be there and be able to move freely. Be able to move freely, be able to shift throughout your unconsciousness and throughout reality. Because when we begin to keep ego within this box, then our ego is going to continue to damage us. We are going to continue to struggle within our lives and what we're trying to do. When we allow the ego to move freely and accept everything that comes with it, accept everything that comes with life, the good and the bad, accept the fact that I'm not the number one person in every single area, then the peace that is going to come is going to be much more available. The peace that is going to be able to come with that ego that could shift is going to be more readily available to you. But the thing is, you have to get to that place to where you're not allowing the experiences that you've gone through to define who you are. That's not ego. That is the experiences that you've gone through. Your ego can be shaped by that, but your ego is not dependent on it. Your ego could be shaped by that, but your ego is not dependent on it. You have to be mindful of what you're doing, how you're doing, and what you're grabbing onto. Because like I said earlier, the things that you've gone through as a kid does not mean that you are that person when you get older. So your ego is going to shift, your mindset is going to shift, and how you feel and think about yourself is going to shift. who you are right now at 25 or 30 or 40 is not going to be that person. It was not that same person when it was 10. And what I was thinking at 10, I think is crazy right now at 28. You know, so everything is going to shift. Everything is going to shift. So understand that when it comes to ego, and when it comes to this negative light the ego has, understand that ego is not negative. Ego is nothing more about how we see ourselves and how we define ourselves and how we perceive ourselves. But that perception of how we perceive, that definition of how we perceive ourselves will be shaped based upon the experiences that we go through in life and how we cling onto those experiences. How we keep those experiences to ourselves and use those experiences to define who we are. If we are just allowing those experiences to just be experiences and nothing more, then our ego will be healthy. Our ego will be productive, and our ego will be an asset. But it's on us to make sure we define who we are, not allowing those experiences to define who we are. So moving on forward into the question, right? The one question that I have for all of us is that when do we allow, at what times do you allow your negative ego to get you down? At what time do you allow your negative ego to win or to come out? Right? One of the things that I do sometimes, well, I do this a lot, but one of the things that I do, and this gets in my way, and this is going back to the conversation me and Didier was having earlier before the show, is the fact that, I make it a point to talk to myself in a negative light and try to use that as motivation. But sometimes what that does is it's going to cause me to continue to be doing something that I know I'm not supposed to do. But I ain't no bitch and I ain't no quitter, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Even though I know I'm not supposed to be doing it, I'm just going to keep doing it because I ain't no bitch and I ain't no quitter. There's nothing wrong with letting stuff go. There's nothing wrong with saying like, yo, I can't do this. But there is something wrong with forcing yourself to continue to do something that you know you're not supposed to be doing. So for me, that's how I let my ego, my negative ego, the negative side of that ego get to me and get me down. Because it forces me to stay in a situation in which I know I'm not supposed to be in. And the only way I get out of it is if I get smacked in the face with a Mike Tyson haymaker by life. Like, that's the only way I get out of it. That's the only way I listen. So, but question to you all, when and how are you allowing allowing your negative ego to get the best of you? All right? So, as always, good looking. Always understand and never forget, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.